Good morning, everybody. Russ Lewis and Rick Amudaraj here in the KHOU newsroom. We are waiting on a press conference here. What you're looking at right there is a podium that's set up at the DA's office. Kim Ogg and the mayor is there as well, and we're waiting for both of them to come out here in a few minutes. We're told with a big announcement. When those two are together, you know, Rick, it's a big case.
It is a very big case. We're waiting to hear from them, and as well as a spokesperson with HPD we know is standing by. It's 11:31 right now, 11:32, so at about 11:40 is when we're expecting everyone to approach the podium. We're standing by. We know that there are several big cases happening around town, very much of public interest, and so we're hoping to hear about one of those shortly.
We've heard rumblings about what this may be, but it's not confirmed. That's why we're not gonna speculate here and go with that. But if it is what we think it is a big case that's been lingering here in Houston for a few years. So if it turns out to be that or some other big case, certainly worth listening to here once those two take the podium with their announcement anytime now.
Yeah, we have a reporter on the ground. David Gonzalez is standing by there. And of course, we're going to be streaming this news conference live for you now. So thanks for joining us, and stand by because we're going to be hearing from these officials in the next few minutes.
Right, we're on all of our digital platforms here at KHOU. If you haven't signed up for our push alerts and if you're watching right now, maybe you received one you've signed up for, letting you know when we're about to go live with a story like this. A lot of times we'll be here digitally, not on TV, but on our digital platforms. And that's a great way with signing up with those push alerts to know when something big is happening and we're about to do something like this. So when you're on your phone or your computer, you can then know to tune in and watch if you don't happen to be monitoring Facebook or our website, all the time. That's a great way to know it's time to watch something big's happening.
Again, for the folks who are just joining us, we are standing by, and this is an empty podium, but we're right outside the DA's office, hoping to hear from Mayor Sylvester Turner and, of course, the District Attorney Kim Ogg about, we believe, a major break in a major case in the Houston area. Don't want to speculate on what that might be, but if you follow the news and you follow the headlines, you might be able to guess. Again, we are still waiting for confirmation, and hopefully we're going to be getting that soon. But again, we're going to be hearing from officials at 11:40. That is the scheduled time for this news conference.
And they typically only do this when there is something big to say. Sometimes we've seen this when there's a big reward announced in a cold case or a high-profile case. That's happened before, but a lot of times when the district attorney and the mayor are getting together, they're saying something significant about a case of interest to all of Houston. So we want to welcome everybody watching on our digital platforms right now. I see, and that's the great thing about doing this digitally, we can see that about 1,200 of you are watching right now on, is that a Facebook number?
That's correct.
That's a Facebook number. So our other digital platforms as well, YouTube, on our website. And you can write in if you'd like to contact us. We're watching that as well. So I see more than 100 comments so far. We can scroll through those and look at what you are saying. And certainly, I'm sure you'll have a lot to say here once the announcement's made, whatever case we're talking about here. What your thoughts and what you're thinking.
Yeah, the DA Kim Ogg and Mayor Turner are going to be talking about a high-profile case, and so we are waiting to hear about it. A lot of you are suspecting it's either a case involving Malia Davis or Josue Flores. I'm reading some of your comments on Facebook Live right now. Again, we are standing by. Hopefully, we're going to get some information in just a few minutes. But yes, those are two of the major cases that have been in the headlines in the last few months. A lot of people are talking about that and hoping for developments in that case. So either way, whatever they have to report, it's going to be a pretty big break in one of these cases. We're guessing because they're all coming together along with a spokesperson from HPD. Unclear if Chief Acevedo will be there or if someone will be there in his place to speak on behalf of this.
We know that the HPD spokesperson is there.
Okay.
The public information officer we heard. We have David Gonzalez down there who's watching all this for us and is going to give us a heads up when he sees these folks heading for the podium here. They're behind closed doors right now, but we're set up right where they're going to be at any moment now. Sometimes these things do run a little bit late, but we wanted to get on here early on our digital platforms and let you know to expect something big coming up here in a few minutes.
All right, so we're just going to stand by and wait, and we'll be right back on as soon as we see people approach the podium. And Mayor Sylvester Turner stepping up to the podium right now. District Attorney Kim Ogg also there at the District Attorney's office. Let's listen in.
Ready? Ready? Good morning. I'm Kim Ogg, Harris County District Attorney. Today, a grand jury indicted Andre Jackson for the murder of Josue Flores. New evidence, newly tested evidence, was presented by Assistant DAs Tiffany Dupree and Kathy Kale, who are here with me this morning, to the 338th grand jury who handed down the indictment. As I have said many times before, this office is evidence-based. We prosecute individuals based not on theories, not on conjecture, not on hearsay, but on evidence. When newly tested evidence became available through science in this case, we were able to make a case to the grand jury that Jackson is in fact the murderer of Josue Flores. While I'm prohibited by law from discussing the specific proceedings of the grand jury, it is this newly tested scientific evidence, along with previously gathered additional evidence, that led to the indictment, and which I am willing to stand on with these prosecutors as evidence beyond a reasonable doubt of Andre Jackson's guilt. It's our duty as prosecutors to seek justice, not just to obtain convictions, and to seek that justice based on evidence that will withstand appeal and all tests. Because of the excellent investigative work done by homicide detectives in this case and by the lawyers who I am proud to say work for and with me, we now believe that we can bring justice to Josue's family. I want to thank everyone involved, the assistant DAs, the homicide division, the specific support of this mayor, for the crime victim's family, for City Councilwoman Carla Cisneros and her support during the last several years while the family waited for justice. Sometimes the passage of time helps a case. And in this situation, had we stepped forward before and had the evidence been insufficient, either for a guilty verdict or to sustain a conviction on appeal, which is what we believed, then we would not now be able to pursue that same murderer because of double jeopardy. So while it is painful beyond belief for the families of crime victims to wait for justice, it is cases just like these that convince me sometimes time is the answer. I'd like to hand this off now to Mayor Sylvester Turner.
Let me start off by thanking the District Attorney Kim Ogg and the Harris County Assistant Prosecutors for just being relentless on this effort. So thank you, District Attorney. Certainly I want to acknowledge Chief Acevedo in his absence. Chief Fenners, he is here with us today in homicide. I want to also acknowledge Carla Cisneros, City Council person for District H, and she, the Josue Flores family lives in her City Council district. I want to thank the members of the grand jury who listened and carefully weighed new physical evidence presented and this morning returned an indictment. To Police Chief Acevedo and HPD investigators, thank you for staying focused on Josue Flores. And for 3 years, HPD refused to give up. In fact, the community didn't give up, the family didn't give up, and neither did we. And today our community joins with Josue's family in viewing this indictment as an important step towards justice for Josue. 3 years ago, on May 17, 2017, 11-year-old Josue was walking home after school when he was brutally stabbed to death. It could have been anybody's child. The unimaginable brutal attack has made Josue's everyone's child. And last month, on the 3rd year death of Josue, Chief Acevedo and myself and others stood with his mom, Maria Flores, and said a month ago that we would not stop until we were able to bring resolution to this case. Last Friday, I joined Chief Acevedo in a visit to Josue's family and talked with his mother, Maria, to let them know about the new developments in this case. We let Josue's family know that he has not been forgotten and that this entire city continues to pray and work so that his death would not be in vain. The 6th grader was a smart, loving, and respectful student, and I know his parents, brothers, and sisters miss him dearly. The community misses him dearly every day. We cannot bring back Josue, but we can seek justice in his memory and protect other children in our community. And so to the family, I want them to know that we will remain by your side every step of the way until this journey ends with justice for Josue. So thank you again to the DA's office. Thank you, Kim Ogg, for just being relentless on this matter. And I know your office will do everything humanly possible to bring justice for Josue. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon, everyone. Executive Assistant Chief Troy Fenner. On behalf of Chief Acevedo, who's out of town on city business, I want to report that today at 11:15 a.m., we arrested Mr. Jackson in Baytown. I will not go over to just give the specific street, but the fact is he's in custody. A little over 3 years ago, our little young soldier, and I want to refer to him as a soldier. We all love our kids, and if you don't have kids, everybody has a loved one that has kids. Was brutally murdered, and we told his family and that community, and I want to say this because I don't mix words, that Latino community, just understand that we never wavered. Chief Acevedo said over his dead body, okay, that we would give up over on this case. And we stand here today with our mayor, with other city legals, our district attorney's office, the investigators from the DA's office. I want to thank our homicide investigators. We work together. And the main point today is he's in custody. Justice is justice, even if it's delayed. The worst thing anybody can do is a lot of questions that come out of cases sometimes. What about this? What about that? We want to get it right, get the evidence right, and get him in custody. And that's what happened today, and I'm just so proud of our teamwork. With the DA's office, the mayor, thank you, media, thank you, community, for being patient. But most importantly, that beautiful family. Just about a year ago, Chief Acevedo, Matt Slinkard, and I went over and visited that family. The mayor told you they just visited them again about a month ago. When you look in the eyes of a mother who's lost a kid in such a violent act, it's just tough. The sisters and the brothers. But we told them, we made a promise. We would not waver. We would stand fast and get this person in custody, and that happened today. And I'm proud. I'm proud of our community. I'm proud how we stand together in Houston. So we're moving forward with the justice. I will not go into a whole lot of questions about the investigation. You don't see any of our homicide investigators and our commander because they're out in Baytown right now, okay? And I'll tell you this without going into tactics. We had him under surveillance for several days, 24/7. All right, so when that question comes up, we had him under surveillance, and we made the arrest today. So thank y'all for y'all support, and let's continue to move with justice. Let's respect the family and keep loving them. Thank y'all.
I'd like to invite Ruben Perez. He is the Bureau Chief over Special Crimes in the DA's office, and he'll give the Spanish version.
Buenos días. Me llamo Rubén Pérez, soy fiscal del condado de Harris, soy el jefe del Special Crimes Bureau de la Fiscalía del condado de Harris. Yo trabajo por Kim Ogg, le quiero dar gracias a ella porque lo soportó, nos dio todo el apoyo cuando estamos trabajando en este caso. Le quiero dar las gracias también a las fiscales Tiffany Dupree y Kathy Kale, las muchachas que están para mi derecha, que trabajaron duro para traer justicia a la familia de Josue Flores. Ahora en la mañana, este caso se presentó al gran jurado. El gran jurado le puso cargos a Andre Jackson por homicidio, por matar a Josue Flores. El rango de castigo es de 5 a 99 años o vida y una multa de $10,000. No queremos hablar mucho de la investigación porque todavía está este caso pendiendo en corte, pero le quiero dar gracias a todo el mundo, a la comunidad, a los policías del Houston Police Department, de la policía del departamento de Houston, al mayor Sylvester Turner, a la cónsul Cisneros. Como le digo, le quiero dar gracias a Kim Ogg, nuestro fiscal del condado de Harris, y oficial Fenner, el señor Bradford, CEO Bradford, que trabaja con nosotros. Todos trabajamos juntos con otros fiscales y otros policías y otros detectives del condado. Con la comunidad trabajamos todos juntos para ver que se hiciera la justicia a este pobre niño de 11 años que fue matado por decimos nosotros con la evidencia, que Andre Jackson fue el que hizo este daño, esta muerte a este niño. Como les digo, muchas gracias a toda la comunidad. Ojalá que sigamos enfrentando este caso y vamos a trabajar bien duro con el favor de Dios, que se haga la justicia para Josue Flores, su familia, la comunidad y todo el estado de Texas. Muchas gracias por todo el apoyo que nos daba la comunidad en este caso. Gracias.
Questions?
Kim Ogg, the district attorney. Everybody in Houston has been watching this case for 3 years. What is the evidence that you have?
The evidence is newly tested DNA evidence. We don't try our cases here in the court of public opinion. We try them in the courts of law. So with that said, that is what's new in the case. But I'd like to remind everyone that evidence was gathered at the time. It simply wasn't sufficient then without the newly tested information to uphold a conviction either at the petit jury or at the appellate level. We did not believe it would withstand appeal. Had we moved forward, jeopardy would have attached. We would never have been able to try Jackson again. That was a risk that we determined was not worth it. So, as painful as it is for families, and I cannot imagine the burden that the Flores family has carried around, but I know that our officials have been there by their side. I know that our prosecutors have worked with the family. I just want to thank them for their patience and for their faith in this system. It's based on evidence, not opinion. You know, murder's not entertainment. It's for real. And it's important to Josue that we stick to our burden of proof. That's what we did. We see that a grand jury this morning believed that evidence, believed it showed probable cause, and I have complete confidence in our lawyers that they can bring that case in front of a jury, that we can obtain a guilty verdict and sustain it on appeal. That's our job, to see that justice is done.
Was it testing on the jacket that had been tested previously?
I really don't want to talk about the exact nature of the evidence, what it is. That'll all be aired out in court, probably to the nth degree, but we'll fight that battle in court. We're prepared to do so.
Can you clarify where the DNA was tested? Was it in Houston?
It was not. It was not. It was tested by a lab that had superior capabilities to the first lab that tested it several years ago.
Was that here in Texas or Utah?
No, it was not. It was not in either Texas or Utah. It was in Florida.
Okay, because the police chief had said they sent off DNA to Utah back in May.
That's incorrect.
Is that not right?
That's not correct. Utah, yeah. And look, just want to say this: it's not important in where we sent it off to. It's a superior lab, and we don't want to do or say anything that's going to jeopardize this investigation and ultimately the conviction. A lot of times we're putting all the energy on the front end. You know where the focus should be? On the back end. I just ask you to put yourself in that mother's position. 3 years waiting for justice. Nobody's going to rush and nobody's going to say anything that's going to jeopardize that, because the ultimate justice is when he's locked up in prison, okay? And that's what I want us to focus on today.
So, Chief, even after the charges were dismissed, he never dropped off the suspect list.
Say it one more time. Oh, I'm sorry.
Even after the charges were originally dismissed against Jackson, he never dropped off the suspect.
No, he never dropped off as a suspect. Good question. He always was a suspect, a person of interest. Yes, sir.
Does HPD have any idea after 3 years why he would have done this? I mean, this death rocked the community.
No, we don't have a motive, and who could think up, why would you kill an innocent little boy, innocent little boy walking from school. I've seen that tape many times, and it stays with me. We see a lot of things as police officers, and almost 30 years for me, that stayed with me. And who knows? But I'm not so concerned about it right now. I just want justice to be served.
Why did it take so long to send the evidence to Florida?
We're not going to discuss that right now. Yeah.
When it comes to the family's reaction, were they aware that you guys were getting close to making an arrest, or were they notified at 11:15 this morning?
Go ahead.
Let me just say, even last week, Chief Acevedo and myself visited with the mother, Maria Flores, on last week, and we let her know that there were developments that were taking place in this case, and that we were hopeful that a grand jury would come back with an indictment. We wanted to reassure them that even though it's been 3+ years, that Josue has not been forgotten and the family has not been forgotten, that we wanted to be persistent. And as a team, I think it was very important for all of us to be very, very careful that we not prematurely act and then miss the mark. And so it worked collectively as a group. I can't say enough for the DA's office and the assistant prosecutors, and I can't say enough for the homicide detectives and HPD, but it's been very methodical, very careful, very deliberative. But at this moment, what is important is justice for Josue.
What was the decision to do this new testing at a different lab? I mean, how did that come about?
Our cold case unit found out about new technology, at which time they sent it over to the lab to be tested. And let me say this, and I forgot, thanks to our FBI partners for ponying up and putting the money up for the test. And that's all I'm going to say on that. Cold case did what it should do. Look at evidence and see any new technology or whatnot, whatever we can do to bring justice. And that's what happened here.
You mentioned he was arrested in Baytown. What's his connection to Baytown? Did he resist arrest?
Either he's living there or the relative lived there, but we'll get that out to you guys a little bit later. But we did put him in custody in Baytown.
So why are detectives still there now?
Well, whenever there's arrests, especially some of this magnitude, we want to make sure that we're processing scenes and whatnot. I know he was arrested on a traffic stop. I got word of that when I was en route over here, so I hadn't even had a chance to be debriefed. And we'll get more information now. Anything that we can that won't jeopardize the case or have a possibility to jeopardize the case.
Able to keep the community safe with this guy being out there for 3 years?
He's always been a suspect. He's always been a suspect, and we're not going to come out and tell the community that we have eyes on people, because suspects look at the news as well. So you better believe, if we believe that somebody is dangerous and they're a suspect and killing that young little soldier, we're going to keep eyes on it. Okay? Few more questions, and we're going to call it. Yeah, go ahead.
Seguro.
Sobre esto mismo, ¿nos puede decir por qué si ya se le había arrestado a André Jackson, se le deja en libertad y ahora se le puede poner cargos ya? ¿Qué fue la pieza clave que ayudó a ponerle cargos?
Pues la evidencia que fue examinada, como le dijo en Florida, esa evidencia nos ocurrió, mandamos la evidencia para Florida y el laboratorio de allá nos dijo que el DNA era del niño. Y eso fue lo que presentamos ahora en la mañana, algo diferente, algo nuevo para seguir estos cargos.
Pero siempre se consideró a André Jackson sospechoso.
Todo el tiempo fue una persona de interés para nosotros.
When will he be in court?
To that. Mr. Jackson will be arraigned tomorrow morning, presumably 9 a.m. And I told you the court, 339? Although he was indicted by a different court's grand jury, his case will track back to the original court where it fell, and that's the 263rd District Court of Harris County. We look forward to seeing you there.
Chief,
Thank you all.
Yes.
What was Jackson doing on the street that day? I mean, this was 3 years ago. Have you learned any more about why he was even there, why he was in that neighborhood?
No, and we're not going to discuss it today. But there's evidence that he was there, and further evidence that led to the arrest, which we're not going to discuss today. All right? Thank y'all.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
More than 3 years after 11-year-old Josue Flores was stabbed to death walking home from school, we are one step toward justice. The DA's office announcing that Andre Jackson, a homeless veteran, has been arrested in connection with this case, charged with murder. District Attorney Kim Ogg saying Jackson is in fact the murderer of Josue Flores. This is information that a lot of people have been hoping for so long. And Mayor Turner also got up there and thanked the grand jury who indicted Jackson, who, as HPD mentioned, has always been a suspect in this case.
And he was arrested back in 2017 and released, the DA believing she could not make the case in court and stating again today, had we tried him then, even with a conviction that was reversed on appeal, then he can't be tried now with this newly tested evidence. They sent some DNA to a more sophisticated crime lab in the state of Florida. It came back, and the DA saying that's what led to the indictment, and that's what's leading her to believe now that he is the killer beyond a reasonable doubt, and that she can prove it in court and it can stick and he can go to prison for this.
Yeah, that DNA evidence coming from a piece of clothing. I think a really good point that Executive Assistant Chief Troy Finner with HPD said was justice is justice even if it's delayed. And the DA's explanation of not wanting an appeal in this case for Andre Jackson to serve time and stay in prison for this case is the ultimate goal for them. So now that he has been charged with murder, that is the next step, and he will be arraigned tomorrow in court at 9 a.m.
Investigators anticipating this, obviously, over the last few days as that evidence came back. They say they've been watching Andre Jackson 24/7. They've had eyes on him. He was taken into custody during a traffic stop at 11:15 this morning in Baytown. So he is in custody, and as you mentioned, will be arraigned tomorrow. I thought the DA said something very interesting when she said, sometimes the passage of time helps a case. Sometimes time is the answer. It has been 3 agonizing years for Maria Flores, Josue's mother, and the rest of that family, waiting for justice to be served, wondering if anybody would ever be arrested and tried for the murder of this little boy who was just walking home from middle school when he was stabbed to death for no apparent reason. We talked about a motive. They're not probably going to find a motive. What could the motive possibly be, as Troy Finner said?
Yeah, what is the motive to stab an 11-year-old?
For killing a little boy walking home from school. So that family has agonized for 3 years wondering, is this day ever going to come? And I'm sure they felt, a lot better last week when the mayor says he and Chief Acevedo went to the family and said, we have developments and we think we're going to be able to close this case. So I'm sure there was some relief there, whatever relief you can get after this period of time, that justice will finally be served for Josue Flores.
You also have to understand the trickiness in this case with Chief Troy Finner saying, look, Andre Jackson was always a suspect in this case, but we can't always say that. And we know that suspects watch the news too. So while his name has been there, he was arrested once and then let go. They didn't want to keep that in the headlines until they came back with this DNA evidence that was much stronger after being both run through a lab in Texas and then run through a lab in Utah and then now sent to Florida to get better DNA evidence that convinced a grand jury to indict this man. So this is how cases work, and obviously everybody was, not only his parents, he has, Josue Flores has brothers and sisters, and I remember being out in that neighborhood on the north side when all of this happened, and everybody was just shocked and baffled and scared and sad, because who in the world would stab an 11-year-old boy? And you heard so many great stories about this kid who was staying after school to do homework, was a big part of a science club there, had so many goals and aspirations, was a good kid, was good at school. And as any parent watching this story, I mean, it hits you in the gut. You cannot believe someone would do this to a child.
Sure, and as the mayor said, it could have been anybody's child, right? He's just walking home from Marshall Middle School in the afternoon. There was surveillance video, you remember seeing that, of a man they believed was involved. The feeling was at the time, I remember a couple of years ago, that Andre Jackson homeless veteran was staying at a Salvation Army shelter, which is nearby there on Fulton Street, where the murder happened. And that's how they feel they, at the time, had connected him to all of this. And now they say the DNA evidence has come back, proving, they say, beyond a reasonable doubt, the DA believes anyway, that he will be connected, tried, and convicted of this crime.
So if you're just tuning in, the district attorney's office announcing that a grand jury has indicted Andre Jackson in the murder of 11-year-old Josue Flores. It happened on May 17th, 2016. So we just passed that 3-year anniversary. This was, of course, on the north side of the neighborhood. This little boy just walking home from school when police say he was stabbed about 20 times. And so many people saying his death just haunts this neighborhood. So many people wondering who did it and why. And very scary for folks in that area, wondering if this man hasn't been caught, what is he capable of doing next? So for many people, and I'm guessing for the family mostly in all of this, that this is some relief because it is a step toward justice, because the person that they really suspected for quite a while, who they had arrested and let go, really they believe is the person who's responsible for little Josue's death.
It changed that neighborhood. I mean, the parents got together afterward and started taking turns walking kids home from school and just keeping an eye out. I mean, the ultimate neighborhood watch was put in place there after this tragedy happened. The quote that stuck out from the mayor during this press conference, and it may sum it up, as best as you can. He said, "We cannot bring back Josue. We can bring justice for Josue and protect other children in our community."
Absolutely. And following up with that Troy Finner saying, Chief Troy Finner, that justice is justice even though it's delayed. And I thought that was something that speaks to a lot of people, because we've had a lot of high profile cases here and we don't always get what we want when we want it. We don't have a suspect in custody as soon as possible after a murder case like this. It's very frustrating and and scary for so many members of our community to not be able to have something to hold on to. So this was important because they wanted to do it right.
Now, Andre Jackson, he's been involved with this for quite some time. He was arrested, released. He posted a statement on YouTube a couple of weeks ago, and we want to run that for you right now, let you listen to what he had to say. Again, this is from a couple of weeks ago.
Especially when you're accusing someone of being a murderer. So with that said, I'll proceed with my actual statement, and I'll read it word for word here. It starts by saying, "It's purely ridiculous that police, trained detectives, who, mind you, are not held in the most ethical nor highest regard in today's social climate in the light of the police brutalities that have marred our perceptions of them, to continue to try conspiring a case against me. I am insulted and offended that investigators and Chief Acevedo would speak such comments, making statements and intimations to the public about their imprudent assertions. I do not appreciate a group of Mexicans, Hispanics, or Latinos trying to pin a murder on me. You are still using my name and likeness in your injudicial conclusion, both you as well as the media outlets. Your whole publicity stunt seems to be a bad execution of propaganda, because I have read the reports myself, and what they need to do is be transparent. The witnesses' statements did not match one another. They all describe different physical appearances to include clothing and features. One man said that he followed the culprit who ran across a gas station parking lot, yet that was proven completely false when the surveillance cameras were watched by the police, which was documented in the discovery for the case. They have no reason to consider me a suspect or person of interest, and I wish they'd stop trying to destroy my image. They have not shared why they consider me as a link to this case, because there is none. Their behavior shows a lack of intelligence to me, and it screams systemic prejudice. My items were tested in a DNA lab, and there was none of Josue's DNA on me nor my items, and vice versa. They tried to say that the results were inconclusive initially, but the truth is that I was never even around Josue. No DNA test could ever link me to him, regardless of where you ship it to. Today's technology is good enough to detect even the smallest DNA with the standard tests in lab, but they're just trying to save face and console the community and are going about it the wrong way by trying to disseminate false hope that one day I will be proven as his killer. I am not Josue's killer. I am not a killer. This is by far the most absurd ordeal that I have ever experienced. I haven't been satisfied one bit with the course of this case and my 1 year jailing. This is an example of institutionalized racism to me. The very same community that they're mentioning so much needs to be where they look for a person of interest or suspect. They need to reference the crimes that young Hispanics are committing across Houston. This is nearly a form of harassment, and I'm considering legal action against this municipality and the judicial system. You are all liars. I am a black man in America. I have hard enough time as it is. I don't need my identity jaded. I am a Christian, an honorable veteran, and I have overcome my obstacles with this case, landing a good job, and I'll even be graduating soon. I don't deserve this every year on the anniversary of his death. I have a concerned family that doesn't need additional stress. This is jeopardizing my safety in the public, which is what I believe is the intent of these officers. I will not stand for this one bit. Please listen to the journalists. The investigative journalism can help you in your incompetence develop the right questions that you should ask yourself. If the family is still grieving, I would advise them to seek professional support, a grief counselor. I have nothing to do with this case. Your whole speech sounded very suspicious, as if you had no clue what was going on in this case. I'm owed an apology. You need to grow up. I have moved on in my life, and if you don't know who did it, then if you don't know who did it, and you didn't know back then, and you have no information or evidence, then let it go and close the case. Or leave it in the cold case file. But if it's in cold case file, why are you saying that you have a suspect? That just doesn't make sense. I'm going to research the policies and the procedures of investigations, and if I continue to have people out there trying to associate me with this case, I definitely will hold you all accountable for your actions and the information that you're giving to people. Thanks. Especially when you're accusing someone of being
the man now under arrest for the murder of Josue Flores. That was a statement that he was reading that he posted to YouTube a couple of weeks ago, calling the investigators liars, and he says no DNA test can ever link me to Josue. The district attorney disagrees.
Yeah, he said very blatantly, I am not Josue's killer. I am not a killer. Of course, this was posted, as you mentioned, Russ, 3 weeks ago on YouTube, or several weeks ago on YouTube. So before today's announcement from the DA's office and, of course, Mayor Turner. But Andre is maintaining his innocence, saying he was never even around Josue, and that the DNA evidence that was connected to him, which is what the DA is saying is connecting him to this case. He said it's been tested. It's been tested at labs in Texas. It's been tested at a lab in Utah, and he has no connection to the case. So he also mentioned that he is considering legal action against the city for any possible charges that might come forward. But this is very interesting that this was posted several weeks ago because clearly he at the time didn't feel like his name had been thoroughly cleared.
Right. Well, and when on the 1 year or the 2 year anniversary, when you had the mayor and the chief all come out and say, you know, we're still working on this, and they would not rule him out as a person of interest in this case.
Yeah.
He may have been feeling like they were closing in on him at that point a few weeks ago when he posted the video. I don't know, but certainly he has some strong feelings about how this investigation has gone. What the DA is saying, if you're just joining us, is that this evidence is newly tested by a more sophisticated lab in the state of Florida, and it has come back and it was presented to a grand jury, which indicted the man you just saw, Andre Jackson, for the murder of Josue Flores back in May of 2016, as that 11-year-old boy walked home from Marshall Middle School on the near north side and was stabbed to death in just a vicious attack for no apparent reason.
Yeah, it was an attack that has in fact affected the entire community there. Andre Jackson, going back to this YouTube video that was posted a few weeks ago, saying, "I am a Christian, I am an honorable veteran." So this is very, this will be interesting, and a lot of people are weighing in on our Facebook page as we're here on Facebook Live saying, this doesn't add up. I heard what he said. I believe the new DNA evidence. I believe what Andre Jackson is saying. So some people are very split on this latest news coming down that he has been indicted on murder charges.
Well, the investigators, HPD, the district attorney, the mayor, were all very clear during this press conference. You know, we're not going to be able to say anything right now. You can't talk about what's presented to a grand jury by law. That is illegal to do. So that's not going to happen. And the DA obviously doesn't want to jeopardize her case by giving us more specifics about what has happened here in the last, especially the last few months, but over the last 3 years of this investigation, because you still have to get a jury. You don't want to prejudice an entire, jury pool that may be sitting, in judgment of this man at some point very soon. So they are wisely holding back what they know about this case. We will learn it in open court, and that's when we'll all find out what the investigators have been up to and what evidence they have.
Yeah, Andre Jackson will be arraigned tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. So, of course, we're going to be following this case very closely.
And we're going to let you go now, but keep it here on all of our digital platforms. Also on the TV side, we're following this today at noon. I'm just going to leave you once more with what the mayor said a few minutes ago. We cannot bring back Josue. We can bring Josue justice and protect the other children in our community.
Right.